Let's be perfectly clear. What we are witnessing right now is the complete and total implosion of Canada's defense industry, and it is a crisis of its own making. There is one man at the center of this catastrophic failure, Mark Carney. He marched into negotiations with the United States, making arrogant demands for defense contracts, demanding access to America's most advanced fighter jets, and expecting major concessions. He fundamentally believed that President Trump would simply roll over and give him everything he wanted. He was wrong. President Trump did not even flinch. He refused, stood his ground, and did what he always does. He put America and American interests first. Now, because of Carney's spectacular miscalculation, the Canadian military is in an absolute freefall. It is being crushed under the weight of shattered promises, indefinitely stalled contracts, and the disastrous leadership of a man who foolishly overplayed a hand he never held. What you just heard from President Trump is the unvarnished truth that no one in the globalist establishment wants to admit. He is finally saying out loud what Washington insiders have only whispered for decades. Canada has been getting a free ride for generations. They have been one of the most delinquent members of NATO, consistently failing to meet their spending obligations. They have built their entire defense strategy on the backs of American taxpayers, on the courage of American soldiers, and on the superiority of American technology. And now, after decades of coasting, they feign shock and outrage when the bill finally comes due. President Trump is the first leader with the backbone to call them out on it. He has exposed Canada as a freeloader on the world stage. Of course, Mark Carney refuses to acknowledge this reality. His entire strategy is to paper over the cracks, to sign a few meaningless deals, and to pretend that everything is fine. He wants to mask Canada's profound failures with hollow promises of shiny new American contracts that he has no leverage to secure. He goes to Washington and demands F-35 fighter jets. He demands special treatment. He demands sweetheart deals for Canadian companies. It's as if he genuinely believes America owes him something. But here is the hard truth. America owes him nothing. President Trump owes the Canadian political elite absolutely nothing. He certainly doesn't owe anything to a Canadian defense industry that is so broken and mismanaged that it essentially exists only to be bailed out by Ottawa's inept procurement system. What is the situation on the ground in Canada right now? It is utter chaos. Crucial military projects are stalled. Their forces are stretched dangerously thin, and their pilots are flying aircraft that belong in a museum. Companies that rely on these contracts are stuck in a state of paralysis, unable to plan for the future. Carney stood before voters and promised them a new era of military strength, new contract, local production, and state-of-the-art equipment. It was all a fantasy. None of it is real because he never earned the trust of the United States. And President Trump will never reward the weakness and excuses that Carney is peddling. This is where the rubber meets the road. President Trump is standing firm. He is not going to bend to Carney's empty demands. He is not going to sacrifice American jobs, American money, or America's national security, just so Canada can continue to pretend it's a serious military power. He is absolutely right. If Canada wants to be taken seriously, it needs to start spending its own money, building its own capabilities, and stop whining like a spoiled child when President Trump calls them out on their failures. When you compare the two men, the difference is staggering. Trump is calm, direct, and unwavering in his commitment to putting America first. On the other side, Carney has been completely exposed as a weak and ineffective negotiator, a man who is desperate for favors and incapable of delivering even the most basic equipment to his own military. You just heard it directly from one of Canada's own former top security officials. He admits the truth. The United States will not be happy about losing defense contracts because Canada is fundamentally dependent on America for over 70% of its military supply chain. Let me repeat that, 70%. That isn't a partnership. That is a state of total dependency. It is a lifeline. When you are that reliant on another nation, what leverage do you possibly have? The answer is none. Yet. Carney is scrambling, pretending he has options by chasing suppliers in Europe. I understand the impulse. He has to look like he's doing something, but it's a pathetic bluff. And everyone in Washington sees it for what it is, a desperate signal of profound weakness. He calls it a strategy, but it's a surrender. The truth is unavoidable. The Canadian military cannot function without American planes, American part, and American protection, period. President Trump understands this perfectly. He will not reward these games. He is drawing a clear line in the sand. Honor your commitments and be a reliable partner, or you will be cut off. That is what real leadership looks like. Meanwhile, Carney is dragging his country deeper into a quagmire of his own, making frozen projects, skyrocketing costs, and more suffocating bureaucracy. Their soldiers are the ones being left exposed. The contrast couldn't be more stark. Trump is firm and consistent. Carney is weak and indecisive. The collapse of Canada's military isn't Trump's fault. It is the direct result of Mark Carney's failure. This is proof of everything I have been saying. The United States has now issued a formal warning to Canada. If you back out of the F-35 fighter jet deal, the consequences will be severe. That isn't a rumor. That isn't speculation. That is a direct promise from Washington. They are drawing a line, and they are daring Carney to cross it. Think about what this truly means. Canada's entire national security architecture is built around the NORAD alliance with America. This involves shared radar systems, joint air patrols, and fully coordinated fighter squadron. And what did the U.S. ambassador just say? He said that if Canada tries to play these foolish games and walks away from the F-35, the NORAD alliance itself could be threatened. That is not a minor diplomatic spat. That is a nation-threatening crisis. It is a direct threat to their sovereignty, because Canada is completely unprepared to defend itself. President Trump is right to press this point home. And what is Carney's response? He promises modern jets, he promises huge contracts, and he promises local production, but he delivers nothing. He is hiding behind endless reviews, dragging out decisions until defense companies are left in limbo. He is stalling while his own military is on its knees, begging for the F-35. And let's be brutally honest, Canada's own generals want this jet. They lobbied for it. They recommended it. They know that their Air Force cannot function without it. Yet Carney, in his infinite wisdom, is second-guessing the experts and babbling about alternatives because he is terrified of Trump's pressure. That is not leadership. That is cowardice. You can see the desperation in their maneuvering. They floated the absurd idea of buying Swedish fighter jets. They talked about niche Arctic missions and rough runways. But everyone knows the truth. Canada does not have the money, the infrastructure, or the geopolitical leverage to split contracts between Sweden and the United States. It is a complete fantasy, a delusion that will end in disaster. They are trying to project an image of independence when, in reality, they are trapped by their own decades of negligence. President Trump has been saying this for years. America will no longer allow its allies to delay, to freeload, and then to demand special treatment. Canada has relied on American protection for generations while refusing to pay its fair share to NATO. The record is clear. Now, the bill has arrived. Carney wants to negotiate as if Canada holds the winning cards. He is profoundly mistaken. President Trump holds all the cards. The F-35 is the undisputed backbone of Western air defense. If Canada backs out, it isolates itself completely. And Trump is making it crystal clear that there will be a heavy price to pay for that isolation. Canadian defense companies are suffering right now. Contracts are delayed. Jobs are on hold. And supply chains are filled with uncertainty. It is a total mess. Carney refuses to make a decision. His endless review isn't about accountability or strength. It's about hiding. He is hiding from Trump, hiding from his own military, and hiding from the very voters he promised results to. Every single day that this drags on, Canada looks weaker, and Trump looks stronger. Let's not forget what is actually at stake here. America is offering Canada access to the most advanced and capable fighter jet on Earth. This is the same jet that Canada's own generals have identified as essential for their security. This is the jet that guarantees seamless interoperability with America's Air Force, their only real ally, and yet, Carney is acting as if this is an optional upgrade. He is pretending that Canada can pick and choose from a menu of options without any consequences. That is not reality. That is a dangerous delusion. President Trump is not bending. He is not begging for Canada's business. He is setting the terms. He is making it unequivocally clear. You can either commit to the alliance on America's terms, or you can live with the catastrophic fallout. This moment matters because it reveals the fundamental difference between two types of leaders. On one side, you have Trump's strength. He speaks directly, he forces consequences, and he fiercely protects American industry. On the other side, you have Carney's weakness. He causes delays. He overpromises and underdelivers. He leaves his own military exposed, and he wraps everything in more and more red tape. So, the question becomes, who is the real leader in this situation? Is it Trump, who is drawing a line and defending U.S. interests? Or is it Carney, who is stalling, reviewing, and failing to deliver anything of substance? The answer is obvious. Canada is collapsing under the weight of indecision and terrible policy. And President Trump is demonstrating once again why an America First foreign policy is the only one that makes any sense. Listen to what's happening. Canada's own defense leaders are now openly admitting that they cannot stand on their own 2 feet. They are saying that if America pulls its assets, Canada has absolutely no way to rebuild NORAD. None. Their budgets can't handle it. Their industry can't deliver it. And their politicians have no plan. That doesn't describe an ally. That describes a dependent. America is the life raft, and Canada is the person desperately clinging to its side. The life raft will survive one way or another, with or without the person holding on. It is not a good time to be Canada right now. President Trump is right when he says that NATO allies must pay or they will not be defended. Canada proves his point better than any other country. They make grand promises about modernization. They talk about recruitment drives. They float ideas about buying new submarines from South Korea. It is all smoke and mirrors. The only thing that actually matters is the F-35 deal. And even that exposes their profound weakness. America controls the jets. America controls the technology. America controls the capability. If Canada ever steps out of line, those planes will be grounded. That is real leverage. President Trump understands this. And meanwhile, Carney is stuck. He reviews, he delays, and he stalls, all while his generals are begging for American equipment. His government looks powerless and defenseless. His promises are hollow, and his military is dangerously exposed. This is what you get when you dress up dangerous dependency as sovereignty. Trump is the one calling it like it is. Canada has been freeloading for far too long, and America will not bend anymore, in my opinion. Canada has got to unleash Alberta, unleash Saskatchewan, and unleash its incredible economic resources. They need to get rid of the suffocating red tape and finally start building real strength from within. Then, and only then, maybe Canada has a chance. That's what I think. And that's all that I have for you today. From all of us here at the Zone Media Network, I'm Griffin, your host. Please, do not forget to head on over to American Zone for all the latest American news, where you will see me there. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. The procurement of military hardware is rarely a simple transaction. It is a complex nexus of national security, economic strategy, and delicate international diplomacy. The recent tensions between the United States and Canada over the purchase of the F-35 fighter jet serve as a potent case study in these dynamics. While framed in populist rhetoric as a dispute between a demanding leader and a freeloading ally, the situation reveals deeper, long-standing structural challenges in the relationship between a global superpower and its closest partners. Analyzing the core issues, NATO spending commitments, the strategic implications of the F-35 program, and Canadian sovereignty provides a more nuanced understanding of this critical geopolitical issue. At the heart of the American position is the persistent issue of burden sharing within the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. For years, successive U.S. administrations have urged member states to meet the mutually agreed upon target of dedicating 2% of their gross domestic product to defense spending. From the American perspective, nations that consistently fall short of this benchmark, such as Canada, are perceived as benefiting from the collective security guarantee without contributing their proportional share. This view casts the F-35 deal not merely as a sale, but as a litmus test of Canada's commitment to the alliance and its willingness to invest seriously in high-end military capabilities that are interoperable with U.S. forces. From a Canadian standpoint, the decision is far more complicated. The F-35 is one of the most technologically advanced and expensive fighter jets ever produced. Committing to a fleet of 88 aircraft represents a multi-billion-dollar investment with profound, decades-long implications for the national budget. Ottawa must weigh this immense cost against other domestic priorities. Furthermore, there is a robust debate within Canada about whether the F-35, a premier stealth strike fighter, is the right tool for the country's specific defense needs, which often prioritize Arctic sovereignty patrols and NORAD operations. Alternatives, such as the Swedish Gripen, are presented by critics as potentially more cost-effective and better suited for operations from rugged northern airstrips, raising questions of whether the American pressure is based on strategic necessity or industrial protectionism. The consequences of this decision extend far beyond the procurement office. For Canada, aligning with the F-35 program reinforces its most critical defense relationship and ensures seamless interoperability with its primary ally. Conversely, choosing a different platform could be viewed by Washington as a strategic snub, potentially jeopardizing the deep integration that defines the U.S.-Canada military partnership, including the vital NORAD alliance. This puts Canadian leadership in a difficult position, capitulating to U.S. pressure could be seen domestically as a forfeiture of sovereignty, while defiance could risk tangible strategic and economic repercussions, especially for Canadian aerospace firms that are part of the global F-35 supply chain. In conclusion, the standoff over the F-35 is not simply a transactional dispute, but a symptom of evolving geopolitical pressures. It forces Canada to navigate the competing demands of fiscal responsibility, independent national security policy, and the strategic imperatives of its alliance with the United States. The ultimate decision will be a telling indicator of how a middle power balances its sovereign interests against the expectations of its superpower neighbor in an increasingly complex global landscape.